Welcome everybody to Badger Pack Sports. First couple episodes that we've dropped have been on the Packers, seeing as it is draft season, but we get to do our first episode on the Wisconsin Badgers today. Going to be going through the State of the Union and just talking about some guys we're excited for. Going to get into record predictions. And then once again, as always, joined by my co-host Justin Legal. Justin, how's it going?
Good, man. Happy to take a little deviation off the NFL draft and combine. We'll have plenty of content on that. Badger football, sour subject in the last few years, but doesn't mean there's a lot to talk about. We got a lot of things to unpack. Luke Fickell, year 3. What's in store? Lots of changes on the coaching staff. Transfer portal, excitement on the recruiting front. There's a lot to unpack.
Yep, no, definitely lots of things to unpack. I think obviously biggest thing we're going to have to discuss kind of in like the State of the Union is just, the offensive coordinator going from Phil Longo, the air raid, the dairy raid that everyone was excited for that seems to be like the planes flying around in the US. It crashed, was not good. We're moving on now, bringing in Jeff Grimes, Mr. Physical Football, getting back to Wisconsin football. You excited for that, Justin?
Yeah, I'm ready to go back to the roots of Wisconsin football. Not the power I with 8 tight ends and 15 linemen, but just
Hippo.
the physical brand. And I think the one word, if you could describe one word where lots of alumni, fans, and just everyone was talking about is identity. The Badger program did not have an identity under the Phil Longo offense. And if Grimes can do one thing, and it as a former O lineman himself, is he is a proponent of running the football and getting downhill. And I think that alone is changing kind of the vibe in the room. And I think it just helps give this program an identity and something to hang our hat on to recruits and to the fans.
Yep, no, I'm definitely excited about Jones' strategy there. Kind of running to the outside. There's breakdown just on how they run the ball, kind of looking just for the one cut, jump there and start getting up the field. Just different from the way Longo is teaching how to run the ball. So I'm excited for that. I'm also really excited about the young running backs that we got. Even Yakimelli, he's a little bit older, but I just hope they use the kid this year. You can't have a guy who's averaging 8 yards per carry on your bench. It just doesn't make sense.
Biggest mystery I remember. It was so infuriating. And I know Robbie, we're on Badger fan Discord, and I remember it just
You know,
everyone pounding their fists on the table. Where's
yeah,
Yakimelli? Oh, I hope in this new scheme we get to feature different types of backs, different
yep,
types of runners. Lots of jet sweep in motion too. Guys like Tretch getting involved. Deep shots with guys like Jaden Ballard and Vinny Anthony. We'll cover some of these guys later in the
yeah,
show, but I just feel like there's a sense of calmness in the room. The dairy raid, like you said, in Orlando brought a lot of excitement, but it was a complete mentality shift from what Wisconsin football is and how we
yeah.
recruit and the type of kids we bring into the program. So I guess Robbie, I think we take a chance just to provide our thoughts on the state of the program. Like I said early in the intro, we're on year 3 of Fickell. There were some rumblings. He had a contract extension last week, but
Yep.
again, if you actually look into it, it's common practice with the Wisconsin sports department, the athletic department. Don't look too much into that, folks. It's a standard protocol that the program follows. But
Okay.
regardless, like where is your head at with this? What's the big picture? Take a 30,000-foot view of the program and just give me your thoughts, Robbie.
Yeah, 30,000-foot view. Looking at recruiting, I think that's been good. Obviously, transfer portal's been a little bit crazy. I think if you look at it though, you had a lot of teams that have been looking for seniors, kind of bringing those guys in. If you look at kind of the recruiting classes and the transfers that they've brought in, transfer wise specifically, they have brought in some younger guys. You look at Attack Curtis or Sebastian Cheeks. Like they weren't just seniors coming in to get their 1 year before going to the NFL draft and then leaving. So you did get some guys that you developed. I think if you're going to kind of run things kind of like an Indiana did, that's kind of the blueprint now that everyone sees. But it's like you're going to get your older guys there. and those are going to be the guys who produce, and then they're probably going to leave, which can leave you in trouble. I think you saw that with Michigan State a couple of years after they had their one good year, and then they fell off. So I would definitely say that's where we're at. I think we're still looking to develop. I think the new coaches, I would say actually looking at the secondary coaches. So after the first staff hiring that Luke Fickell did, I did not like the original staff. I mean, I liked them at the time because I had no clue really who they were. But the secondary hires, I think Luke Fickell has done a better job. I think he's had a better, more time to really see what the program is and what he actually wants in the position. So I would say I am optimistic for the future. I'm not super excited about this year, but as long as we can get a good recruiting class this year, I think we could be in good shape. Where are you at, Justin?
Yeah, and I think we can unpack different topics. And I think I love what you said about the recruiting. And if you've been following Badger football closely, the types of guys that Fickle's been able to bring in, a Carter Smith, guy committed to Michigan, uh, four-star composite guy in the 2025 class. Just it gives Badger fans some comfort that there's a quarterback in the room that at least has some pedigree. We're not hanging our hat on some no-name, two-star kids, three-star kids that have minimal upside. I think you're starting to see different types of athletes come in. The offensive line, if you look at the projected starting lineup this year, bringing guys that can move and are powerful and strong. We'll talk about one particular alignment we're excited about later in the show, but I will say though, to transition to where I'm at, it's depressing, man. Our trophy room's empty. We lost the axe again. We lost the Heartland Trophy. Uh, we lost to Iowa, Nebraska, and Minnesota, three rivals
The
in
Freedom
the.
Trophy, that
That's
one
it.
hurt
Yeah,
me, man. The
yeah, and
Freedom
it's like
Trophy.
the room's empty. Nothing
Yeah,
makes me more mad. I'm going to shout out to my buddy Jason, huge Gopher fan. Nothing infuriated me more than getting a text from him saying they got the axe back and them taking it off Camp Randall and chopping the goalposts. We know the whole gamut there.
yeah,
It's tough being a Badger football fan right now, and more importantly, we lost the bowl streak.
yeah,
You know, however, not to be in the dumps for too long. I personally think this is time to buy Wisconsin football stock. Everyone sold it
yeah,
when we lost the bowl streak, when we had a 5-win season last year. I really think Fickle is learning from his mistakes. He knew the Longo hire at some point he needed to just cut ties there. Um, and he did. It takes some humility to do that, but he also knows his own seat's getting hot too.
yeah,
Um, and coming in, hiring a guy like Grimes, I think is it the sexiest pick? I remember when we announced it, everyone was kind of like, "Who? Who's Jeff Grimes?" Everyone's
yeah,
talking about different young hot OCs that are trying to come into the program, but honestly, it's kind of nice to have an under the radar hire, bring in some solid uh, positional coaches. Tough Borland in the linebacker room, Jordan Reed we brought in for the receivers. And some other guys we'll talk about too, but I'm feeling a little bit at peace. Like you said, though, not super optimistic going into the season on win totals. The schedule's pretty brutal, but yeah, Robbie, what do you? I guess where's your head at with kind of the state of the program and really the lack of success under the Fickle regime the last 2 years.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I think a big thing has to do with the Longo offense didn't work. Like you said, what is our identity? We didn't have one. And then I think the transfer portal was different. I think even looking at Braden Locke and you had Nick Evers when they first came in, and the whole idea was you want to get a guy who's already been at one school because if they transfer, then for them to transfer again, they have to sit out a year. Well, then that changed. So it's like, okay, well, now it's like that's not a rule anymore. So Evers was able to leave. So it's like you didn't actually, you know, in my opinion, when that first started, that was your security blanket. And then you were free to go out and get somebody else. But it's like, well, at least we know this guy probably won't transfer. So that all changed. So that really hurt us. But it's like I said, the running game just didn't work. You had Ches Malusi that didn't work out. It seemed like they were promises made to the guys who stayed, and, like, I can appreciate that, but at the same time, it just like the Hunter Wohler talked about it. It's like, you know, we need to hold guys accountable. Not everybody's bought in. I think for the most part now, like this is Fickell's team. I do not want to hear the excuses about guys not being bought in. Like it's his team now. Everybody is pretty much gone from before. It's like these are Fickell's guys that are stepping up. Billy Edwards, it's like he's a Fickell guy. Giacomelli, yeah, you could say he was a Chris guy, but he's been with Fickell for if he wanted to leave, he could have left. He's a Fickell guy. Everyone on the team is a Fickell guy in my opinion right now. And so I'm hoping they got the buy-in. I like the coaches they've brought in. I think we got some talent. Like, but I'm also like an optimist as far as like recruiting and like everybody's gonna have a better year the next year. So
Hmm. Well, you mentioned it's full of Fickle guys, and one Fickle guy we haven't talked about. I want to make sure he doesn't get any. He doesn't get forgotten. Is Mike Tressel? The defense needs to step
wow,
up. Dead last in the
yes,
country in TFLs. The pass rush. I mean, quarterbacks having a cup of coffee in the pocket, letting guys come flying open.
yep,
We talked transfer portal, and maybe we do an episode just breaking down some of the guys specifically that we picked up, but you can tell that there was a mentality and a type of profile they're looking at. Guys that are big, hitting 300 pounds. Teams were able to gash us in the run, and then when they passed, I mean, we provided like no resistance. And coming from the Jim Leonard years, man, when our defenses were tops in the country, just a complete turnaround in performance on the defensive side of the ball. Because our offense, I mean, if we be real, our offense hasn't been great since maybe the 2018 team with Jonathan Taylor and Alex Hornibrook, the Orange Bowl year. We've always been able to hang our hat on a solid to elite defense, and that's gone now. We're coming into the season and we're having a segment of the show talking about incoming defensive players. We kind of struggled because it's been hard. The Leo Chanel's, the Sanborns, the Keanu Bentons, we can name guys for hours
oh yeah,
are Zach Bond is a difference maker for the Eagles to help them win the Super
yep,
Bowl. We have a pedigree. We just got to get back to the basics. And Mike Tressel, his seat should be hot. It really should be. And I'm
yes,
curious to see what
absolutely,
scheme he comes in. We talked about 3-3-5. Sounds like perhaps the thought is we're going to a 4-2-5. We'll have to see how
yeah.
spring ball looks and all that. But what do you think about the defense, Robbie? Any comments on that?
Yeah, the defense, I think, once again, it's like you look at the guys they brought in. They brought in a lot of linebackers last year, and that just didn't work out. Now, once again, it's been said, it was said on during the NFL Combine this week, but it's like anybody who's in like the SEC or your top tier Big Ten lineman, it's hard to go to the NFL draft because if you want to switch to another team, it's $1 million right there. So it's like, how many million, it's $1 million per defensive lineman you want. So you got to fork out that money. So in a way, I can understand. We're going to go for the linebackers because hey, we can get 4 or 5 of these guys for the same price as 2 defensive linemen. So I think they were able to kind of go. It's like what they did this year is like they kind of went for the smaller school guys. You know, I mean, obviously, guy I might talk about later, but Javier Suggs. It's like he went to LSU, but he wasn't there before. So he didn't perform as well. So maybe they got a little bit of a discount on him because of that. But it's like I think they just went and said we need some size, and they filled out the linebacker room. I think pretty well between recruiting and the transfers last year. So I think they have a shot to get better. I think between the 2 years they've been able to, hopefully put that puzzle together there.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Just one last question on the topic, and you talked about Hunter Wohler's comments, and we wish him nothing but the best. I know he's doing the combine right now. He's testing pretty solid, actually. Maybe we do a video on some Badger combine results from some of our
Oh
guys
yeah.
there. But you mentioned about the buy-in,
I
and,
think
and
there's only 2.
yeah, is it Jack Nelson and
Waller.
Hunter Wohler? Yeah. So that'll be a short
Sad.
video, right? But my question though is you talk about buy-in is do you think with this NIL era, guys having pride playing for the state of Wisconsin, the care about the rivalries, like playing the Gophers, like when you recruit or when you do this NIL era, getting kids from, out of the Midwest and you're trying to plug them in because they're great athletes, like Do you think there's something there? Like, I know I've heard some rumblings about it. It's just like, man, a lot of these kids don't understand the power of wearing the W on the helmet, that type of connection with the program. Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't know. I think you still see like, the flag planting. Like these guys are all competitors, and if they have a chance to show up another team, they still want to do it. I don't think it has the heart of like we're doing this for Wisconsin, but it's like, we still want to beat these guys. I think Fickle, they talked about it the first year when they did beat Minnesota, that he made it a big deal about rivalry games. So I think they're gonna try. It's like, but it's like, when you got Braden Locke and everybody on the team's just like, I don't even think we got a chance. Like you could see him give up last
Yeah.
year. It's like he had 2 years of Braden Locke. He's finally gone. It's like I know Fickle wants to win. Fickle's an intense guy. So it's like he's not stressing the games, I guess is my point. It's like, yeah, you might have some guys that are just there for the money, but at the same time, you got to win to keep making that money. So they're going to be ready to play. But yeah, I think seniors it's definitely going to be harder, but if you still get some guys who have been there for 2 years, they're going to want to play those games.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love it. It's something to keep an eye on as this NIL, wild wild west, whatever terminology you want to call it, kind of continues to matriculate through the NCAA landscape. We're seeing stuff in basketball, but as well as football. It's crazy. But hey, let's cut the bad news. Let's cut the negative energy. And there's
Yeah.
some excitement here. And Robbie,
Oh
I think
yeah.
we want to transition here. And what we're going to do is we're going to break down both sides of the ball. And we're each going to provide a couple guys that we're excited about, that we're keeping our eye on. So Robbie, on the offensive side, let's start there. Give me a guy that you're fired up about.
Oh yeah, I was excited about this guy last year. Sad he didn't get more carries, but that's going to be Dylan, Mr. One Cut Jones. I mean, I watched this kid's high school tape, and it's like he was just able to get the ball, find a hole, hit it, and he was slippery. It's like he didn't make too many big moves, but he ran fast enough, and it's like guys would get a little bit of contact on him, but he had just enough wiggle to kind of get him off him. I think he's got some good speed. And I think he's got pretty good vision there, just to be able to finally, like I said, it's like the whole thing with Grimes is, you're looking for that cut, and whenever he can get it, I think he's going to be able to hit it and go. So that's why I'm excited about Jones. Wasn't able to see him catch too much, but I know he did have some clips on there of pass pro too. So I think as long as these guys are able to pass protect, that's going to be a big thing too.
Well, and before I say my guy, Dylan Jones, and I know Darian Dupree, we're not bringing him up, but everyone look up their recruiting. We won some massive battles fending off schools in the SEC, Bama, Auburn, Florida, for these guys. Like, these are not slouches. RBU is still alive and well in Wisconsin, and Jeff Grimes has an opportunity with both these guys. But I love that. I love Dylan Jones. I think he's a guy that fits the scheme well. So I'm with you on the excitement for him. Absolutely.
Even though I will say it's like I don't know how excited these kids are when they bring Ron Dane in. I saw the one video Ron Dane came in. It's like they seemed like they're like, oh yeah, cool, Ron Dane. Like I don't know when Melvin came back, I thought that was a big thing. It's like even Braylon Allen talking about Melvin Gordon is the reason I wanted to play running back. It's like they're not. They need to bring back like a Jonathan Taylor or Melvin Gordon, but it's like the university has kind of screwed up those relationships.
Big
It's like
time.
that's gonna cause trouble.
And I know we're going on a rabbit hole here, but maybe we're going back to the state of the program here. But I also saw chatter like Barry Alvarez making appearances on ESPN Madison, and it's like, I get that fires up a part of the fan base, but these players do not
Yeah,
relate to Barry Alvarez. What they know about Barry Alvarez is the name on the field. They change the
yep,
name on the field, and maybe a little bit of history, but there's no
yep,
connection. And bringing guys like a Melvin Gordon, like J.J. Watt, man, well, these kids watched him play in the college in this college years wearing the W on the helmet. There's so much NFL talent that's out there, And I don't know if these guys reach out to the program. I mean, I know when they're playing, they're also in their NFL season, so it's tough to do things during the year. But like, I would just love to see a more injection of the alumni base. I mean, even like a Monty Ball, who's not in the league anymore, I think he would speak volumes into the program. So it's a great point you made, about like guys like Ron Dane. Don't get me wrong, we're thankful for those guys. They helped
Oh
pave the
yeah,
ground to make the program as good as it is now. But like, there's almost has to be a passing of the torch where you need to have voices that maybe have an impact with this younger generation of players because they did not watch the '90s Rose Bowl games.
yeah,
They weren't even alive.
yeah. The 1900s, as the young kids are calling it now.
Oh, well, let's get back on track. And my offensive player here shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that's found the program. Billy Edwards Jr. Competent quarterback play. That's all we ask. I don't need Russell Wilson numbers. We do not need Jeff Grimes to create Zach Wilson 2.0 in his BYU years, creating a top 5 pick in the draft. Like, we don't need that. We just need a guy that can command the huddle, provide confidence in his players, not turn the ball over, and maybe not get some passes deflected at the line of scrimmage. Like, let's start there, right? But like, we're just looking for a guy that can come in and make some high percentage throws and to make the right reads. People were throwing stat lines out there. You know, for me, if he's in that 2 to 3,000 yard passing range, 20s for touchdowns, and if he keeps it under 10 turnovers, I think that's a great year for him. That's a good season.
Yeah.
And when you have Dylan Jones, like you said, Robbie, and Darian Dupree, Katie Akamelli, like you got a backfield that's going to help take the pressure off of him. My only concern I have with Billy, not only, but one of the main ones is, he's coming from Maryland in the transfer portal. Horrendous offensive line that he had there. Had to get rid of the ball fast. I wonder if he's got any sort of, people use the term ghosts or seeing ghosts out in the field. Like, what I don't want to see is him rushing
The
his progressions
yips,
and reads. The yips, exactly. We don't want that from him. The guy's got swagger. He had that. Uh,
Carhartt swagger, Carhartt swagger.
yes, a little the Carhartt swagger for sure. And he he's a guy that brings some life into the room. I watched an episode of The Camp where he spoke to the guys. I forgot who runs that show, but my apologies to them. But he seems
That's
like a natural
Zach
leader.
Halprin and Jesse Temple.
Yeah, shout out to those guys. It's a great program at The Camp. But they had Billy on last week, and I listened in, and he sounds like a guy that's really big on building relationships and leading off the field as much as it is on the field, and bring these guys together. And he's only here for one season, and to help set the path for the quarterback room and get us back on track and get us out of the transfer portal business for the quarterback. That's my biggest thing. Yes, Robbie, you any comments on Billy? I mean, we could spend probably 3 shows talking about the quarterback position, but
I mean, I just got a little bit of trivia for you. Guess who the last quarterback for the Wisconsin Badgers was to throw for 25 touchdowns?
I'm thinking, did Hornibrook do it?
It was Hornibrook. You were right. I thought you were going to go
Wow.
with Cone. I thought you were going to
I,
go
I
with
was
Cone, but
those
yeah,
were the 2 guys I was thinking. I'm like, I think someone did it after Russ. So I'm thinking Hornibrook,
yeah,
and that was that 2018 year where we went to the Orange Bowl.
yeah. He had quite a
Yeah,
few interceptions though, so
yeah.
that
Oh, that
was
ball, like when
that
he
was
threw the
that was his
ball,
style.
I'm a lefty. I always loved Hornibrook throwing as a lefty, but the ball felt like it just floated in the air for
Yep,
like 10 minutes. You're like, is it going to come down?
yep. No, that I was just looking it up because somebody said, "Oh, if he could throw for 25 touchdowns," I was like, "Who's the last guy to even throw for 25 touchdowns?" Hornibrook, I believe, 2017. But yeah, no, that was the only thing I got on him. But yeah, going into my next guy for offense though, and like I've been talking about this guy for like 2 years, like before the Ohio State game 2 years ago. So I just gotta stay on with my boy, and that's Mr. Vinny Anthony, V8. Fire it up and let that guy fly. And I mean, dude just plays hard too. It's like, yeah, he's kind of smaller, but it's like, he's got that engine and he gonna keep moving. So it's like I love the way Vinny Anthony plays. I think he's done it the right way. He's definitely one of those guys that's like he was a Chris guy, but he's a Fickle guy now. Like he's on the team and he's putting his heart out there. I mean, Pauling, he came in with Fickle, but he had the drops last year, and it's like Vinny Anthony, I think he made some tough catches, and it's like he's just one guy who's gonna keep the team fired up, always smiling. That's the guy you wanna have on your team.
Yeah, he had a he had a breakout year, and think about the receiving room too. Like imagine, and this isn't to throw shade at Braden Locke. I mean, the guy has taken enough, uh, bad press clippings, I'll say, and I think he transferred down to Arizona, so hopefully he can turn his career around down there. But that receiving
Yeah,
room
but
probably
even
didn't
even a
feel.
little bit of shade covers Braden Locke.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts. But that receiving room, a guy like Vinny Anthony, he seems like he's a baller, but he's also a glue guy, and that's why I like to see. They had the receiving room last year had every excuse to just hang it up. But he just seemed to make big plays when we needed him. So I love that poll on Vinny Anthony. Um, this last guy, we don't talk about the offensive line, and we got a beast at left tackle, Kevin Haywood.
Yeah,
Um, Guy was a top 50 prospect that we got as a recruit. The dude played as a true freshman last year, which is unheard of. And he's a plug and play left tackle. He's going to be playing on Sundays. And he's someone that I think we will miss him when he's gone. But he's going to take a big step this year and put him in a left tackle and protect Billy's blind side to help kind of address those concerns I had when he was in Maryland. Is like now we have a rock solid guy in Kevin Haywood that's going to be. I don't want to throw Joe Thomas out there because he's not Joe Thomas. That's like Mount Rushmore,
yeah,
but he has a ceiling up to there to be a solid pro in the NFL, be a Pro Bowler, and be potentially a day one pick in the NFL draft.
yeah.
So he's a guy I'm really excited about, as well as the entire unit. I think the offensive line is probably going to be our best unit on the team, and it's no surprise following Wisconsin football. But I would say like our offensive linemen over the years, the last couple, like we haven't had many guys that were just like, dude, those are NFL pros, like the Travis Fredericks we've had and
Yeah.
over the years. So
Last,
any
first round pick, what, Ryan Ramczyk?
yeah, the Saints, I believe, right? And then unfortunately
Yep.
had to end his career a little early with some injury or I think illness concerns or something on that front. But um, no, it's good. It brings some peace of mind to have guys like Kevin Haywood out there that you don't have to worry about the left tackle spot.
Yep.
Um, yeah, Robbie. So that's the offense. Any other closing thoughts on the offensive guys before we transition out?
I mean, we got Tanner Koziel, but, with Longo, it's like the tight end just didn't get really get used. I'm hoping Grimes is able to fix it. And, Kevin Hayward, he also did go viral for that one clip in the All-Star game, just knocking a boy down. So, dude was a
Well,
man out there.
Tanner Koziel. Yeah, we picked him up. Was it Ball State, Robbie? I want to say
Yep.
where he played. Yeah, 94 catches last
Mhm.
season. Obviously, playing in a little bit of lower competition, but this is like a 6'7", 6'8" frame. I didn't prepare
Yep.
anything on him, but he has got an NFL body. The guy, Wisconsin used to be tight end U as well. Maybe we inject some Barry Alvarez grandson energy with production there in
Yep.
the tight end room next year, and a good safety blanket for Billy Edwards too. So great call out in Tanner Koziel.
All right, and then how about we move on to the defensive side of the ball? And one guy that shoot, I've been wanting him since high school recruiting, and that's Tackett Curtis out of Louisiana. Watch that boy go and
That's your
hit people
boy.
down there. He is my boy. I was so excited once I heard that the Badgers had an opportunity to get him in the transfer portal. Came in, he was hurt, but it's like there were still definitely some games that you could tell like he was starting to figure it out. So I think if he's healthy, it's like he's going to be able to play. Like he's just a good football player. That's all I'm going to say about Tackett. I think he's going to help sure up the inside of that defense there.
And just hopefully he stays healthy, right? Last year it seemed like he was just like you saw him play a little bit, but he just seemed hampered. And it's from
Yep.
what we're hearing out of winter workouts and going into spring ball, we hear that he's locked and loaded and is a freak in the weight room and he's ready to go. I love Tackett Curtis. Love the name too. I mean Tackett. Like how can you
Yeah.
not love a guy named Tackett? He just sounds like a linebacker.
Oh yeah.
Um, my guy's Rico Hallman coming back for another season. It was up in the air if he was going to declare for the draft. I would say this time last year, he was a lock NFL guy. Going in, he had a really solid 2023 campaign. Last year, it's hard to say if he struggled or not. He didn't get a lot of targets thrown his way, which as a defensive back, that's a good thing, right? That means you're doing your job. But I think I think he knows there's more, and I'm sure he got advisement and counsel from scouts and friends and family of what's best. And I'm sure he's getting a solid paycheck from the NAL collective to come back
Yeah.
as well. And you have to admit that's probably a factor in this too. He could have easily went to the draft, probably been a day 3 guy, 4th, 5th, 6th round. But I think he's a guy that we needed desperately. The transfer portal really hurt us. Xavier Lucas, we saw his name flying around a lot. We're not going to dive into the specifics, but he went off to Miami. Lost a lot of other guys. Mari Snowden is another name that kind of hurt when we saw him leave. So we really needed some guys to stay in the secondary. Rico Hallman's a guy. He's got NFL talent. We got to see if he can put it together this year and bring his name, bring his draft stock back up. So yeah, Rico Hallman. That's one of my guys I'm excited about. What do you think, Robbie?
Yep. No, I'm happy to have Rico back. I'm sure he's got that Alabama game circled. That was a big one where he saw it just get blown by. So it's
Mm.
like he's like, I can't have that happen again.
In his
Otherwise,
defense, lots of guys playing Bama are getting blown by.
oh
So,
yeah, but
and
I'm
he's
sure.
got
I'm just
Jeremiah
saying.
Smith in the schedule too this coming
I
season.
mean, as at corner, it's like you got to have that dog mentality, and I'm like, he's just got to circle those games, and he's gonna be like, I gotta, because he knows that if he plays good, it's like that's a big paycheck waiting for him at the next level. So that's what I would say as far as that. But yeah, going my next guy, kind of sticking with the linebackers, but kind of going outside. Gonna go with Thomas Heiberger. You know, kind of from the middle of nowhere, being from the Dakotas. So, but it's like, dude's just, I mean, he's got a good wingspan. It's like pretty fast guy. It's like going to be able to come off the edge. Just has the size that it's like, I liked Bobby April. I liked the 3-4, but it's like every single guy was always like 6'2", 6'2", 6'2", and it's like I just remember like the TJ Watt days where it's like you get a guy who's 6'5" in there, even like the Ryan Conley's like they were just a little bit bigger at 6'3", just a little bit different build. And I think that's kind of what you go back to here with Thomas Heiberger. It's like just that little bit more size, but still has enough explosiveness to get around the edge there and get to the quarterback.
Yeah, Heiberger's a guy. A lot of excitement around him. A lot of people were hoping to see him last year play, and he didn't really get any playing time. So hopefully he can take a step up. And also heard some chatter potentially. They may move him to the inside. I don't know how I feel about that. I want him to be in a position where he can see playing time because the guy
Yep.
has the tools and he's explosive. You mentioned he's from the Dakotas. Just got to give a shout out to Tucker Kraft. A lot of good things come out of the Dakotas. Um, I digress. I'm sticking with the secondary. Emilio Agard coming in. That second corner spot on the other side of Hallman is up for grabs. We know Nizier Forkreen put in the appeal to get another season of eligibility. It did get approved, but then I was also hearing that there's another layer of approvals that have to happen for him to come back. So I think his status may be up in the air. I could be wrong. But a guy like Emilio Agard can come in, pretty highly touted prospect. A high 3-star guy in the 2024 class, 5'11", 180. A guy that has shown a lot of promise. Very competitive recruiting trail with him. We compete with schools like Penn State and Tennessee, just to name a couple. So we see him. We heard a lot of good chatter out of Madison on Agard and his trajectory and ceiling. So we'll have to see. The secondary is going to be really thin this year and really tested. So guys like Agard and Hallman, especially when you mentioned like Robbie, Bama circle on the schedule, they have nothing but speed on the outside in Ohio State, Oregon. It's going to be an interesting test for our secondary this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm kind of glad though that you brought up those schools that got these good wide receivers, and you mentioned Ohio State. Kind of brings us into our next topic, just kind of going under the radar guys, and so one of the guys that I wanted to talk about was Jaden Ballard out of Ohio State. You can look at the draft and see all the first round guys. Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith Najigba. It's like, now you got Emeka Ibuka going. It's like he's projected to go in the first round. You got a lot of talent there. So it's like Jaden Ballard didn't get a lot of playing time at Ohio State, but it's Ohio State. And I know it's like I think you're going to have a lot of people comparing this to like CJ Williams. It's like, oh, well, highly touted, but I just think it's a little bit different being at Ohio State. It's like these guys are talented. I think they said he gets up to like 22 miles per hour running, and I mean that's pretty good speed there at Wisconsin. And I just think, like, I know we talked about Vinny Anthony on jet sweeps, but I think Ballard could do a really good job there, and I think just the ability to really stretch the field. And it's like if Billy Edwards is actually able to throw a deep ball, I think that could really help this offense.
Yeah, and we know Grimes really likes to rely on that run game and then come over the top deep shots. Like Ballard is a guy I think is really under the radar and is exciting. My breakout. Are we doing breakout or under the radar, Robbie?
I went to under the radar. Sorry, I
All
jumped
right.
on because I
No,
got excited.
no, I don't blame you. I just want to make sure I'm giving you the name here. And my guy front of the radar, Preston Zachman. We talked about Hunter Wohler earlier in the show, leaves a big hole. I mean, he was the heart and soul of our defense. Our secondary, like I highlighted on the previous segment, it's going to be tested. It's a bit thin. Guy like Zachman, not a big recruit. Was a low end 3-star kid. Somebody that had some versatility, playing outside linebacker a little bit too. But he's a guy that he's not gonna blow your socks off athletically, but he's a guy that can make some solid tackles in the box. Um, if a back gets to the second level, a guy that can kind of stop the bleeding there. I'm interested to see, in spring ball, how much playing time he's getting, and then also seeing his body develop in another year of winter conditioning. We know the strength and conditioning staff's got those boys in the room just uh, going crazy in there. So I'm really curious to see how Preston comes in with an opportunity. Right, there's this opportunity with Hunter Wohler leaving the program. So we'll have to see. So Robbie, I know we did under the radar guys. Let's jump up. Who's your breakout player this year that you can just see that could really pretty much help elevate this program even more.
Yep, I think I already brought him up, but I'm gonna go with Dylan Jones. I know a lot of guys like Darian Dupree, but it's like I think he's good running to the outside. I think he's got packages. I don't want to say anything bad about Darian Dupree. I just really like Dylan Jones's ability to really get the ball and get up the field. I think he just gets the more consistent yards, in my opinion. It's like maybe Dupree ends up being better because he's able to be a little bit more patient, but I've just liked Dylan Jones' tape ever since I saw it. And truthfully, last year when he got in the one game, it looked like he ran better than Dupree, in my opinion. But it was at the end of the game, obviously, different guys on the field. So, you know, how much can you really take away from that? But I was excited.
Yeah, my breakout guy, Christian Allegro. We talking about difference makers on defense. This guy, didn't start a whole lot earlier last year, but then as the season progressed, you started to see more and more, and you started to hear his name more and more on the TV broadcast. Um, the dude is an animal. He flies around, takes no regard for his body. Like he is throwing his body out there. He's
Yeah.
taking shots. He just screams Wisconsin linebacker. Not a huge recruit. I mean, came out of high school as a mid 3-star kid out of Connecticut. Um, Not your blue chip prospect at all, but just a guy that's been working in the program, buying into the strength and conditioning program, um, learning from the guys up above him, and taking advantage of his opportunities. And I think this year, that middle linebacker room with him and Tackett could be just a phenomenal duo. Giving me Leo Chanel vibes of just the type of impact he can make on the team.
Yeah.
Um, Not saying build or if he's going to be a guy in the NFL, but just an impact, like a guy
Yeah.
that you can just count on. When on the defense when
Yeah.
our
The guy
backs are
you
against the
got
wall.
to account for, on the defense.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, you got to circle him, be like, where's this guy going to be at? Absolutely.
Well, let's finish with the last question here. We're going to do a lot of predictions. We got a lot of time before we kick off in fall, but looking at the calendar here at the end of February, early March, what's your way too early record prediction, Robbie? What are you feeling?
Yep, way too early record prediction. I said I'm saying that there are 8 winnable games in the schedule. We're gonna drop 2 of those. I'm going with 6 wins. 6 and 6.
Yeah, before the show, I think we talked about it. I told you 8 because I'm being
Yeah,
Captain
you told me
Optimistic.
8.
I'm gonna revise it. I had some time to chew on it here. We're gonna go down to 7. I'm still gonna give us a winning record. Um, if you look at the schedule, there's death row at Michigan, home against Iowa, uh, Ohio State, and then you go to Oregon. That is brutal. But if you look at the other parts of the schedule, they're relatively soft. I mean, we got to go to Bama week 3. I
Yep,
mean, we don't need to talk much about that one. But there are winnable games on the schedule, like you said. It's all about, to me, it goes down to the quarterback play. Can we have competent quarterback play? Can we have talent in the running back room and the receiving room? Can we move the ball with competence? We don't. I'm not saying we need to score 40 points a game. Just can we hang upper 20s, low 30s consistently? And I think that will have us in a lot of games in the Big Ten.
yep. Hey, I still get us to a bowl game. 6 wins, it's a bowl game, you know?
Well,
Bring back the streak.
we'll go to Vegas for the Vegas Bowl.
Yeah,
Maybe we make a trip out of that, but it's gonna be interesting, man. It's hard to talk Badger football right now with the lack of excitement with the results on the field, but I think there's reason for optimism too.
yeah, absolutely, it's like I still love the Badgers, obviously, you and I both I mean, I'm a daily listener to, Locked On Badgers. I try to watch, the Bucky Report, the camp. I try to get all my information from there. As Ryan Herrings always says, we're smarter together, just building a good community here. So it's like I'm still getting excited, but I'm sure they'll break my heart again this season at some point because there's going to be some game I expect them to win and that they won't do it.
It's the Badger fan experience, and I know this is a
Yep.
football show, but I'm ready for the basketball team to do the same to me. I'm
Oh yeah.
over invested right now. Hoping I'm wrong, but I guess for everyone listening, what do you think? What are some players that you're excited
Yeah.
about? Drop those names in the comments. If you disagree with Robbie and I, put some points up there. We'll interact with you. What's your record prediction too? Do you think Robbie's on at 6? Maybe my optimism at 7. Are we too high, too low? We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Any closing thoughts or words, Robbie, for us?
And just go Badgers, It's like that's all I got. You know, don't fire guard. I used to say fire guard, but don't fire him anymore.
We
Doing
may
a
need
good
to
job.
dabble. We may need to dabble a little bit into basketball in March,
Oh
depending on
yeah.
seeding. The basketball season's been fun, but we'll close it there today, guys. Thank you all. Like, comment, subscribe. Uh, we'll be dropping more content. We love to hear from you all. Thanks,
Thanks
everybody.
guys.